Hey everybody, we're gonna go over the #1 ranked Gemma on North America servers and how to build it. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th overall. We narrow that down to Gemma, and there we are, #1. So here we go, we'll show you a little dummy beat up test here. As you can see, watch the dummy's life. All of it's being removed at a time. Insane amounts of damage. All right, so this is how we put it together. You don't have to follow it in this exact order, but this is the end tree you're looking to get at level 100. You're gonna start off with some damage nodes, some attack speed, over to the crit ratings. This is where you get to decide, because you only want to put 20 points in here. The way I started off was I went in the top route here. You can also go down to the fire damage. It also gives you the convert, which is very important. And then finally, you're going to end up with some tenacity. You're going to always take the tenacity blessing here, as this is our best way to gain tenacity blessings. You can always switch to elimination when you're fighting bosses in the middle of the fight to do a bigger execute, but we have a baby execute built into our items as well. Over here, we're going to grab great strength. Additionally, you can use fueling if you don't want to invest all in on penetration. Penetration is expensive, it's very rare, and it's a very strong stat. And if you have penetration in your build, fueling is useless. However, if you have no penetration, then you can use fueling. Otherwise, you're going to want to use great strength. Over on Bloodseeker, we are going to prioritize all the damage and attack speeds. As you can see, critical strike rating. Now, this node's very important, but it's not a must-have. I enjoy it, but here you grab a bunch of armor, and then you restore 35% of your missing life when you suffer a severe injury. All right? Now, keep this in mind. This is going to be important when I show you the neck, but essentially, every time we're getting hit on a cooldown of some sort, we're gaining 35% of our missing life. This is a huge defensive layer. All right? We're going to continue on with some attack damage. As you can see, here you only grab this node because these are both for two-handed weapons, so don't worry, we don't want those. And at the bottom here, we're going to grab some life, but the real reason why is because we want the minus 10% skill cost. All right, that one's very important. Over here, we're going to grab some more attack speed, additional damage to life, and attack speed for every 1% of life lost. We're going to grab some attack damage. This one, you don't really need. I'm going to be honest with you, it's kind of meh, but, you know, we don't really have anywhere else to put the point. It's probably the best place to put it. We're going to pick up Sacrifice, and this is really strong. This is what gives us the majority of our attack speed, which makes us become a jackrabbit jumping around the maps. Really crazy. Also, we're going to grab No Loose Ends, critical strike rating, and additional damage. Can't go wrong. Finally, we're going to round out on the Warlord tree. All right, we're going to grab the fire damage just because it's our best option. We are going to throw 1 point into area damage to be able to jump from 6 to 9 because we go 4, 8, 9, and then we jump over. All right, attack and cast speed there. Fire damage, more fire penetration. As we were talking about, if you are going the fueling route, you do not get this. This is a dead node. Don't get this if you're using fueling. All right, here we got more crit rating and damage down here. Aura effect, which is great. We use lots of auras. That's going to boost us. Here we have fire damage. This node you can use to give yourself 100% conversion. Now, Flame Slash has 50% built in and doesn't need this. But while you're using Berserker Blade through maps, it is very important to have 100% conversion. So you can either put a point into this node to get it, or you can use the support that gives you 50%, or you can use gloves that have convert 50% built into the gloves. Either way you do it works, as long as you're aware that when you're using Berserking Blade for maps, you make sure you have convert 50% here or somewhere else to give yourself 100%. Down here, we're going to gain more tenacity durations and an extra stack. Here we have fire damage all the way over to an extra +1 fire skill level, which is great because Flame Slash is a fire skill. Area damage all the way to weaken enemies because weaken enemies makes them deal less damage. I don't like being one-shot. This helps you prevent being one-shot. It's pretty good. Finally, we're going to round it out with rock. Rock is amazing. It gives us 2 stacks of tenacity and it makes all of them deal 15% more damage. We get up to 12, maybe more if you want to go all in on the tenacity thing. Point is, Rock is really, really good. We're going to over on here, we're going to end up with Focus Strike, which makes us deal more damage the closer we are to the enemies. So if you want to fight someone, you got to be right on them for maximum damage, or you can be far away and deal some damage. Either way, it's all good. All right, we're going to go over the skills for this. Ideally, you're going to have Flame Slash as your main. You can always switch this to Berserking Blade when you want to do maps. All you got to do is swap that skill. The supports are the same. You're going to support it with Raging Slash, Elemental Fusion, Slash Duet, Steamroll, and Critical Strike rating. We are going to use Compound Potion. We're going to use it with Berserk, Armor Infuse, and Residues. I'm using Leap Attack. You can also use Spiral Strike, whichever you prefer. I prefer Leap Attack. That's why I use it. You're going to use it with Quick Mobility, Mark, and Harden. We use Fearless Warcry. We combo that with Cost Conversion, Powerful Warcry, and Lion's Roar. Here we have Bull's Rage. We want to make sure it has Mania and Death's Will. You can also go with cooldown reduction, extended duration, or mass effect. Either one of these is all good. Whichever you prefer, your playstyle, however it dictates, choose the best one for you. Here we have Charged Flame, Fearless, Weapon Amplification, Restrain, and Stand as One. We have Curse on Hit with Scorch, Elemental Destruction, Abysmal Hatred, and Seal Conversion. Finally, we're going to have our Cast on Critical Strike. This is going to give us our Bloodthirst, our Fixate. We're supporting both of those with Mania, and we're going to use Seal Conversion. So those are our skill setups for the build. As for the gear, now, this is where it gets really interesting because there's many options for gear. You can use the Fool's Crown here. Ideally, you would want to have this corroded and elevated, not this garbage, but whatever, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. If you can get it, great. As for the chest, you want some life. Very important to have the sealed mana, especially if you plan on using this helmet and these rings, because they don't give you minus sealed mana. So you won't be, this is the only place we can get it on, unless you want to use different rings and different helmets, which is okay. All right, we're also going to grab Elemental Resistance. You can cast an additional curse and own a stack of Tenacity Blessing. Now, here's a very important part of the build. As I was mentioning before, it's going to make us really tanky, essentially. You gain lots of life. Here's the important part. Any damage taken at low life is considered a severe injury. Remember that talent node. When you take a severe injury, you heal 35% of your life. Well, now any damage at low life is a severe injury. But you're like, Mike, we're not no life. However, non-full life state will be considered low life. So now we are always at low life, and every hit is a severe injury. So that node is now healing us 35% of our missing life every hit. Also, when we're severely injured, which is all the time, as we just went over, we're gaining 14% additional damage for 2 seconds. So that's big. This is also going to restore 8% of our missing life when we're hit, on top of that 35. So we're actually gaining about 43% of our life. And this prevents us from dying. Every 8 seconds, we have a cheat death. Really good. Really good. Over here, we have Varagon Shrouds. Now, you either want to get it corroded to have max tenacity here, or it gets max tenacity +2 down here. All right? Finally, we're going to move, not finally, but we're moving over to our Infinity. This Infinity has a few options. There you go. This is the one I used to level with Kinetic Conversion. With the max tenacity, physical damage, all that stuff, it made me tankier. This is what's making me deal lots of damage. Burning Touch. This is probably the best one you can get if you're looking for damage. Also with a tenacity, double penetration. Yeah, you heard that right. We got 2 penetrations going on here. It's pretty good. Additionally, you can use a belt like this with Off the Beaten Track. Now, this will help you with the mana reserved issue we were talking about. So if you're using this belt, you can actually use more auras, and you won't have to be so reliant on the minus cost of those auras. All right. We're going to move over to these boots. Now, these boots you can have either like this: lightning, cold, erosion, max life, physical damage added as fire, and 2 fire skill levels, or 1 fire skill levels. I got lucky. We got these elevated. Got a good deal, so I'm using them. You could also use fire penetration here instead of skill level. So if you're going all in on the penetration, maybe that one might be better. I'm not too sure. Now you have the kaleidoscope rings. We use 2 of these mainly because when it rotates every 4 seconds, we're going to have one of these buffs. So 4, 8, 12. So every 12 seconds for 4 seconds, we're gaining 60% additional elemental damage, which is ridiculously strong because Ice Fire Fusion turns fire into cold and cold into fire. So this is actually 120% additional damage. When we get additional physical, that's great. When we get erosion, not so good. But it's okay because 4 out of 12 seconds aren't great, and the other 8 seconds are amazing. So we can use 2 of those, or you can use a chaotic ending ring like this. That gives you a max stack. It could give you damage per stacks. It gives you chance to gain agility. I like gaining erosion resistance when I had my barrier belt on, but since I don't have my barrier belt on anymore, I would want something like 10% additional damage, or 10% damage per stack of tenacity blessing. That's also really good. All right, our sword over here, I went the way of the additional damage applied to life, gear physical, add flat damage with 4% of the physical converted to erosion, 80% critical, 28% gear attack speed, and then I have this bad boy where 48% of attack critical strike rating for this gear, and your critical strikes eliminate at 8% life. So as I said earlier, we have built-in culling, so we don't need to swap to elimination. Alternatively, you can grab a sword like this that has the penetration instead of additional damage to life. Especially if you can get an elevated version, that's kind of bananas. Other than that, everything's the same on the sword. And here are the boots that I was mentioning with the damage penetration built in. Finally, we have our shield. And our shield is, well, it's kind of wild. All right. There's many ways to put this together. You can go critical strike rating, critical strike damage, and attack speed. I decided to try this out with the shield block thing with no attack speed because I think I have enough attack speed and I'm okay with it. And this is just going to make me deal more damage. You have 3 fire skill level. You have adds 20% damage as fire, and it's just flat physical. So there are a few ways to put this shield together. I'm not exactly sure which way is the right one, but I'm using this one right now, and I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right with it. As for our hero memories and relics, well, we got this relic right here. It needs to be 3 slots. Don't buy a 2-slot one. You're wasting your money. Make sure you buy one that has 3 active slots. As for this node down here, you don't need to worry about this. I like having perfect gear, so I went out of my way and I bought one that was perfect. However, you don't need it. The only way this works is when you're using this. And this will give you points of fervor, which are great. It's free, essentially. It's a pretty cheap memory. However, most of the time, you would prefer to use +2 max fusion. So, if you're using 3 of those, they're all magic memories. You have no legendary, which would make this completely useless. So don't worry about this. If you can find a cheaper version that has a low roll, that's okay. Because you ideally want to use 3 of these memories that are giving you +2 max fusion energy. And then if you really want to min-max, you're looking for this mod with it as well. That adds 32 to 38 or even higher. If you can get a tier 1 version, they're really, really rare. And that adds fire and cold damage to your attacks. So it's double dipping. It's really good. It's the best thing you can get there. And yeah, those are your memories. And yeah, that's everything. So there you go. Once you put it all together, you can head over to farm stuff like Uber Keegan here, right? You just throw all these bad boys in. And you go fight them real quick. So at the beginning of the fight, he can't be hit, so we just kind of jump around. If you can, blind him a bit. Now that we can hit them, we're gonna go in. Oh, well, don't stand AFK like a donkey. You shouldn't stand AFK like a donkey, but you'll see what I was trying to do, and there goes all his life. So that's what I was hoping was going to happen when I stood there AFK. Sometimes it doesn't go that way, and that's mainly because of the kaleidoscope rings that we were talking about. I must have had the bad version going. When I went back in, I had the good version, and you could see how his life got melted down. But this is an Uber Keegan. This wasn't no baby Keegan. This is the big lion. All right, there's the real one, so we go over to here. And just like that, you get yourself some free loot. So now that you have this rocket ship put together, you can essentially insta-farm Keegan, farm free familiar nexuses. Apparently, I'm getting a fleeting sky. And there you go. And then you put all this stuff on the auction house, and there, boom, you've officially won. This is how you beat the game. So, if you enjoyed the build and you liked it, let me know. Make sure you do hit the subscribe on the YouTube. Give my Twitch a follow. As you can see, boom, number 1. All right, guys, hopefully this helps. I'm going to come out in the future with a more detailed guide with the budget options as well. This is a Lamborghini build. I want to say this flat out. This is very, very expensive build, but I am going to come out with a guide in the future that will show you how I put it together and what steps I did along the way. But hopefully this will help you get going. It shows you your end game and what you're trying to do. All right, guys, hope you had fun. We'll catch you later.